Good morning. A warm welcome to you around the world. So excited that you've joined us today. Sending lots and lots of love to our members at Hair Designer TV. And I have a very special guest with us who got up super, super early because she's in California and I'm in New York. So I'm glad I didn't have to get up so early this morning. But Lupe Voss is the most amazing, incredible lady who has such a great story to tell. And we're going to dive into her mind, her creative process, as we explore the world of color today. Now, what I do know about color is that from all the great colorists I've worked with over the years, there's always that little mystery as to the hair being somewhat unpredictable as we go on our color journey. I remember when I started my career at Vidal Sassoons, I went into the salon, 70 people in the salon, and they said, well, pick the floor you want to work on. I said, pick the floor. They said, yes. And they said, well, do you want to be a hair cutter or a colorist? So I went to the very top floor and I saw the colorist working, excuse me. And as I'm watching them work, I'm thinking, this doesn't seem as exciting as what's happening downstairs on the cutting floor. So I ended up becoming a hair cutting expert. But I got to work with some of the greatest colorists in the world, and my respect for color has been unbelievable. Annie Humphreys was the person who I worked with side by side, and I watched this genius lady create all these extraordinary things. So today, when I look around the world for the amazing colorists, I'm very particular. And now Viv is a baby colorist because I want to learn how to expand my skills. And while I'm not going to be in a salon doing color every day, I do want to be able to color my own collections, and I do want to have fun, and I do want to stretch my mind. So I'm so excited that Lupe is with us today because she's going to really share some incredible ideas for you and hopefully demystify some of the challenges we have when it comes to color. Do you relate to that? I do. Anyway, I only have like several memories of color horror stories. One was when the hair melted off the head and the person asked me when they were at the backwash. He was a colorist, by the way. I colored his hair. I bleached his hair. When he asked me how was the color, I went to sort of lift on the hair. And as I lifted it, it came away in my hand. And he said, what's the color like? And I put it in front of his face. I said, well, this is the color. And he went, oh, he said, it's no longer on my head. I went, no, it's actually all falling off. And I turned him into a newborn chick. And I remember at Sassoons, somebody turned green when they wanted to be a nice brown. So yes, I do have my stash of horror stories with hair color. Do you? Any questions you have today, please do ask because we're going to have a great conversation and a whole lot of fun. And here's our gorgeous Lupe. Yay!
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. So I know you've got your mannequin there all ready to go, and I'm super excited to hear what you're going to do. Is it okay just to ask a few questions before you dive into the technique?
Sure. I have a question for you though. The green hair at Sassoon, was it a pretty green? Because it can be pretty that you did.
No, it was, and the worst thing was when I said, oh, it looks a bit green, it was just this horrible green hue underneath the brown. No, it wasn't pretty at all. Actually, it would have been really good for camouflage. If she was going off into the garden, hide in a tree, should have been really good, really good. So
where's khaki when you need it?
Yeah, where's khaki when you need it? So just to give people a little bit of an insight in the back to your background, you've been in the business for 33 years. You look too young for that.
Actually, 38 years, 33 as a salon
owner.
Yeah, 38 years. And that makes me even look younger, doesn't it?
So 38 years in the business, 33 years as a salon owner. You've had a wonderful relationship with Aveda. So tell us about that.
So I opened my salon in 88 and my husband and I, Manuel, and we had a year of testing out products and seeing what we like. Sebastian was big in those days, and Joyco, we had a couple of products on the shelf, and we had this gentleman that came into the salon that was a sales rep, and he kept showing me things. I'm like, yeah. but the third time he came in, he was relentless. He said, "We do not do animal testing." And I said, "Okay, sit down and show me what it is that you have." And ever since then, we carried Aveda. It's really interesting when you find someone and you find a company or you find individuals that you keep them in your life if you're like-minded. And they were very like-minded. We were on the same page. And that's when the relationship started. It was a long time ago. Yep. And I met Horst. And Horst is a big reason why I teach. He kind of got me into teaching.
Oh, that's wonderful. And today you're going to be sharing with us some really great techniques. And you obviously have your own company, which is called Hair Color Magic. And so I know that we're going to see some magic today. So let's dive into this technique. Let's go over the details. Would it be a good time right now to show some of the slides, or would you like to see the slides a little bit later on?
No, let's do the slides first, and then I can go into the technique right away.
Okay, so here we have a gorgeous young lassie. Can't believe 38 years in the business. Whatever you're using in terms of skincare, I need to know.
Aveda. It's Aveda. All right. Let's look at these slides here. So our first slide is our subsectioning, and this is really what I wanted to dive into as far as our subsectioning. This is a subsection that can be used creatively for color and for hair cutting. And we are going to send these mannequins off to a friend of mine, and he will be doing some cuts on them for you using these same subsections. I really like working off of what the hair cutters subsection, that's how I get an inspiration of color. So if you are departmentalized and you're working with someone who cuts hair, have them subsection it while you're standing there and talk to them about why are you doing this and what technique are you going to be using and what tool. Is it a scissor or is it a razor? And if you're doing the haircut, subsection it out and ask yourself as a colorist, how should I color this, and get creative with it. So here we have our subsection, and we have 6 partings on top, and each one of these partings is going to be a varied effect of your colors, which I'll get into the technique in a second. And then the second mannequin is the actual yellow. You can see this mannequin. This one is from Pivot Point, and it's, if you want to practice this technique, it's Gwen. Gwen is a new mannequin, and she's probably lifted to a yellow, a 9. So this one is, I really like this mannequin. It has enough hair and it has substance to it. And then our last mannequin is a pre-done that I had done for you all using this technique. And what this mannequin, what this technique is, it's about varying a new growth. This is great for a color correction technique. This is great for someone who is an all over blonde that wants to go back with a shadowed root and leaving her ends blonde. So this is a really fun technique to do. Creatively today, I'm going to show you that technique using formulas of blue. So this is going to go from something that is very commercial to something that you can do that can go into something that's kind of funky. So this is what we're going to do today. And I will describe what I've done. So in our subsection, let me grab this mannequin. In our subsectioning, anything that has been parted off to through the back has been a root, mid-lengths, and ends application. I didn't want to bore you with a root, mid-lengths, and ends application, so I did this previously on our mannequin. And what I did is I went through and I put a new growth application on the complete mannequin so that you can we can get into the technique versus the new growth application. The first one I did leave out because I don't want it to lay onto the forehead, so I have to remember to put the root application on that when we get to it. So this is our subsectioning. In this application, you would do a root to mid-lengths and ends, foil this off, isolate it so it stays nice, neat, and clean. And then you would then go to the side, we'll talk about our mid-lengths and ends technique in a second. Pull those back as you're working, and then we would work from the back to the front. So that's the technique. This is the subsectioning that we're going to be working on, and I'll hold it here. There, if you want to screenshot the screen, this is a really fun technique, and I've done a couple of different haircuts on it because I do cut. I don't know if you knew that, Vivian. I do cut. I'm a better colorist, so I was taken off the hair cutting team and put on the color team, which was okay.
Oh, that's so great. So let me ask you about this. Remember, I am a baby colorist. So let me ask you about the little blue diagram you have here of the hair,
Yes.
how you painted it in 3 different stages, a
Yes.
little tiny root, a little longer, and then deeper down. Is that a pattern you're now going to apply?
This is what we're doing now. So if you notice here, we have the whole back subsectioned off, and it is isolated so we can be free to work. So I'm going to start in this back side. And yes, that pattern is what we're going to do. Our first parting, so we have 3 formulas. We have, we're doing a fashion formula, and I do want to show you what I do in order to get ready for this type of, if I do photo work, if I do manual. Can you get this on the foils? Here, let's put this a picture down. I'll do it this way. I'll make these swatches and I'll create formulas so that I can work through saturation. So you can see, here's 3 of them. I just dropped one. So I'll work through what I want the saturation to be. Today we're working in saturation, and that's going to be a discussion that we're going to have in a bit. So I have 3 formulas that I'm going to be working with, and then one that is a silver that will come through. Now I swatched the formulas in violet, but we're actually doing blue. I decided to do blue. So this is something that I do ahead of time, especially for photo work. If I'm going to do photo work, I want to make sure that I have everything ready and all the formulas are good, and I'll test out the technique on the mannequins to make sure that they're good. All right, here we go. Let's do this. So I'm going to start with our first. I've got the new growth already applied. So the technique, what we'll do is we're taking these diagonal partings. I'll count in my head. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. So I know I'm going to vary the new growth. And what the varying of the new growth does is gives you that shadow piece. And if you notice, they're big. They're not tiny pieces. They're big, bold slices. So the more bold your slice is, the more effect you get. The finer these slices are, the less effect you'll get. So I have 1, 2, 3. In my head, I know the root formula is going to go either really long, really short, or medium. So I know that this is from root to end. So I want to see contrast. So I'm going to go backwards. This one's going to be a medium. The next one will be a long, and the front one will be a short, so that it's lighter and brighter around the face. Or we can do medium or short, long, and then maybe I'll take this one all the way through the ends. So I just, in my head, thought to myself, I'm going to take this one all the way to the ends. Here we go. I'm going to leave this one short to create more contrast, and in the haircut, hopefully when the haircutter goes through this, they can see that. So the first thing I'm going to do, I am going to what we call shatter the line. So shattering the line, you need 2 combs. You have your first comb to comb through to make sure there are no knots. The second comb is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply drop that comb right inside there, tilt it at a 45, and skim it all the way through. You can't stop. And you can see how it just dragged, pulled down some of this color through the ends. So if you stop halfway, you will get a line. So the technique is put your comb in at a 45 to grab some of that color and pull it all the way through. Do not get your combs mixed up. I should actually use the light one to comb the hair. So I'll normally have 2 combs. So let's put that up there. Now, our next part that we are going to do is lay that foil in there. I will use my medium color. So let's do this. So I've just taken that root. I'll apply this right to there, not on top, but just right to there. I'm not gonna, there's a technique we're going to show. I'll make sure that this is really nice and saturated. So let's do this. I'm saturating. If you notice, I apply the color with my brush flat to the hair, and then I'll take the brush vertically and I'll roll it back and forth. This is called rolling the hair, and what happens is this prevents those little holidays that happen in the hair, those little spots that we miss. Okay, here, roll this back and forth. And if you notice, I only work in little tiny sections as wide as my brush is, meaning I'm focusing on this hair here so I don't get lost. Long hair and thick hair can get really overwhelming. Okay, so now I know that this is really saturated. I'm going to work my way back up. roll it back and forth. Now, I'll pick up my product. Now I'll overlap it just to where that product is, where our root formula is. And then I'll roll it back and forth. I won't blend it up and down because now you're going to bring that down, that dark color down a little bit more. This is to ensure that that dark color stays right where it's at and you're doing a really beautiful blend of the tones. There's times where we expect the color to stay where it's at and then we end up with darker color down here. You really want it to be super varied for this technique to get, you know, we're going for it. We're going to have blue hair. We want to make sure that this is really concentrated here. Okay, so I've got my root. I did my mids and ends with the medium formula, medium saturation. I blended it and then isolated off. Our next parting.
So Lupe, would you please remind us of the formulation that you're using?
So these are saturated formulas. These are, they're not levels, they're saturation. So we're using a strong saturation that's at the root. So that would be like a strong blue, just blue in developer. Then the medium formula is clear because clear will dilute some of the blue and then we add developer to it. So instead of it being all blue, what we have in the medium saturation, so I'll give you the grammage. So for 60 grams of clear, we'll add 15 grams of blue, and then we add the developer to all. So for 60, so that's 75, then you would do 75 mils of developer. And this type of formulas, these saturation formulas, what they do is they give you, so we are working in a monochromatic palette. We were going to speak a little bit about this in our discussion. We're doing a monochromatic palette. It's all blue. Okay, so real quick. I'm bringing this blue formula that's at the root down, and if you can tell, I'm really taking it low. I will stop 1 inch before the blend because I know I need a space to blend. And dark will take over your blonde, so you have to be really careful. Okay, so the saturation part of what we're doing, this one is a medium saturation that we're doing on the mids and ends at this moment. So here we go, we're gonna comb through. Make sure you take it all the way through. So when I get to the next formula, it's going to be a light saturation. So for example, it's 60 grams of clear in only 4 grams of blue. So it'll be the lightest. And then we'll do 54 mils of Tim volume. Okay, so there's my blend.
I've got a question.
Sure.
So the blend that you just did with your comb, when you're taking that and you're filtering it through and now you're going from there, could you just please recap from the root that you kind of smudged, the comb part that you did, and now what you're doing there? Remember, I'm a baby colorist.
Okay, so baby colorist. So we got the root formula and we pulled that, we added to it. So I did the roots just to get everything done. So what I did is I added what's at the root and pulled it down because I want to create that shadow. And once I did that, I combed it through just to give it a little bit of a drag. And then now, this is the medium saturation, and I'm going to take it right to it, and you can see where I can blend, grab some more product, take my brush vertically, and just roll it back and forth. I'm overlapping that line so that you can get that really pretty soft blend. You can see how that's happening. And I can actually see the blonde hair as I press down. I am using pressure. The movement to this is back and forth, but I am using pressure. You can see how the foil is buckling because I want to push that color in there. I want to dilute what I just combed down. I want a seamless blend. So now I have the dark, the seamless blend, and the light. And you notice I don't pull down into that mid and ends, that ends that have the medium saturation. I do not want to disrupt that. So what I did is I added my medium blend. I'm not going to mess with the light just yet. The light I'm going to save for the top.
Okay, so I want to just make sure that all of our friends watching understand exactly what you're doing. If you have any questions, please do ask.
Please ask.
Yes, we have Rosemary, who's an artistic team member. She is in the chat room, and she will be able to also ask some questions as well. So I would just like to bring in Rosemary just for a second to just see if she has any questions before we move on to the next part. So Rosemary, is there anything that you wanted to ask about what you're looking at right now?
Well, I mean, I love the technique, but I do have two questions from your audience. The first question is from Phyllis Brooks. She is an Aveda salon, and please tell her how to take a level 5 and darker to a beautiful grayish color. I'm not doing this so well. I've had lots of education with Aveda. I still struggle with this. I love my Aveda. Thank you.
Are we talking about a gray, a natural gray? Are you taking her from color to gray hair?
It sounds like
a fashion gray.
I think she's taking her from, that's the question. Phyllis, if you can respond to that.
Because there's two answers to that, really. If she wants to be completely a fashion gray, you would pre-lighten to a pale, pale yellow. And then you would add a clear with violet, pastel violet. And this is crossing the line. I'm giving you something that is not recommended by Aveda. So shh. Then I would add 1 gram of, maybe 2 grams of 1N from Demi Plus. It has the true cool tone. You know, gray and white is the dilution of all color, of black. So 1N is black. So if you were to mix 0, I'll say it again, you could use Universal 0N, or you could use Demi Clear. After you've pre-lightened her to a pale, pale yellow, you have to keep yellow in the hair, because remember, if you go to white, it's what we call BHO, barely hanging on. That was Vivian's color story. You want to keep it to a yellow. Yellow is the color of protein, so you want to keep that in the hair. So once you do Universal 0N, say 40 grams, you would put 4 grams of Pastel V and 2 grams of 1N from Demi Plus, 5 volume. You should get a really pretty, that would give you more of a white silver. Okay, so now team, this from the root all the way down is solid. I'm gonna give her a dark face frame. I'm going backwards from what we're seeing right now. I like to go backwards from what's on trend sometimes. Okay, so we're giving her a dark face frame. So now this side is finished, and we'll fold these down, work nice, neat, and clean. Phyllis, let me know if that...
Let me ask you something. How would you sell this concept through to a client in your consultation? How would you describe this end look on a consumer level?
On a consumer level, which would be the mannequin on the other side, I would say it would give you an ombre finish. And this would be a technique. If someone comes in and they bring you an ombre finish, this would be the effect that you would be getting with this technique. And this is what I want everyone to think about. When you see a pretty technique that is a commercial type of a color, think about how you can do that in a fashion color, because that's what really sets it separate. Okay, so now I have to remember what I did over there, so I know that this one is going to be, let me go backwards. This one is going to be completely solid. Okay, then our first one is going to be high. So I want to comb through and shatter that root.
Again, Lupe, let me ask you this again. So I want to be clear about when you've got your client sitting in your chair and you're describing the technique, because sometimes the consumer doesn't understand the difference between an ombre and a balayage. I would just like to hear the language that you would use for this is what it's going to look like. So you're not using a photographic reference. You're actually describing it to her as to how will it whisper, scream, or shout? What is it going to do for her face shape? I'd just like to hear your narrative as a consultation in selling this through, so that our friends watching would know how to sell this to their guests.
So if a guest came in and she was completely blonde and she wanted something different, didn't have an idea, didn't have any images, and I didn't have any images ready for her, I would ask her if she would want to go completely solid, or if she's open to keep some of her blonde as dimension. That way it's not such a big change, because I don't know if anyone has ever experienced, someone says, yes, 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 I want it to be all solid and dark, and the minute you do it, they think it's black, and it's a level 8. So, you know, taking someone who's been blonde for a long time dark, I would do that in bits. So my first recommendation would be, I want to keep some of your ends lighter. I'm not going to take you solid. You will not like it, and you will come back to me and ask me to put highlights in, and then we're going to have to do another service, which will be $150. I'm just throwing that out there. So I really suggest that we do a technique that gives you a beautiful, soft, blended shadow at the root to help it has a graceful grow out, and you will not have a lot of maintenance. This would be a low maintenance color. I'll see you probably in 5 weeks, 6 weeks for a preservation gloss. And what a preservation gloss does, it preserves your color, tone, and shine condition of the hair. So that would be our first discussion. If she was open to it, then I would definitely look for an image so that she could have some type of idea of what it would look like.
And the other question too then I have is, how would you then price something like this? Because it seems like this is quite a time-consuming process, correct?
It is. It is. Anything that, so this is really interesting for me, Vivian, and I hear this a lot from our network, but I watched, and being a salon owner, I saw it, and I experienced it, so it's something that I even experienced. When we change hair, when we change someone's hair color, there's no difference. We use the same techniques as color correction, but our customers don't know this. They don't know that we are using the same techniques as color correction, and we don't charge enough. If this takes you, if you think, okay, just say, I'm just going to throw a number out there. I really don't feel comfortable talking numbers because I don't want to start a fight with anybody's salon owners. Just say if whatever your hourly rate is would be a haircut. So say if it's $100. If you charged $100 for a haircut, and this technique, and it takes an hour, and this technique takes you 4 hours, your minimum of your quote on your service should be $400. That would be the minimum of the color service. Okay, so now we're going to take this one medium. So I when I'm quoting services, I really think about how long is this going to take. I never give a complete price. I let them know it starts at. The service will start at, and it should not go any further than this. And that has to do
a window of
yeah, I give them a window.
Yeah, so you've got some leeway there. And Ira, who we'd love to welcome, said he appreciates the fact that you were speaking about the whole refresh aspect of a service, the preservation gloss. That's such a nice way of presenting, oh, sweetheart, your hair color's faded.
Yeah. You know, and it came about this way. You know, in Hair Color Magic, we teach this in all of our blonding classes, and I'll tell you why. I had a guest that came in, and she said, you know, when I left the salon, my hair color was beautiful. She actually said my haircut was bomb. And in 5 weeks before I come to see you, it ends up turning out to be this ugly yellow. And I said, well, you know, I've asked you to come in at 6 weeks to do a gloss. And she said, well, I don't have time. And so then I was like, well, I just keep calling it a gloss. Why can't I communicate that it needs to be, what we're doing to you has to be preserved? There's a step, there's a commitment on your part. We tell them there's a commitment on your part on this, and your hair is maintenance if you have blonde hair. Bottom line, red hair, your hair is maintenance when you have red hair. You have to come in and get glossed. So the word preserve kept, you know, I kept saying we got to preserve what you have, and I thought I'm calling it a preservation gloss. And guess what? They all started coming back. Yeah, they started coming back.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I also like about what you've shown us today is the demo the mannequin that you finished. You have her straight. And
Yes.
you can see how seamless your blend is. Rosemary, do
Yes.
you like that as well? You haven't curled it because sometimes I notice that people curl and it hides the diffusion of the curl. The curl will expand and therefore it diffuses the color, and it's very kind and forgiving on any sort of any lines or any lack of blend, as was the best way of saying it. So I love that you had the courage to show us that mannequin straight. And
Yes.
when you're done with that and you've got your gloves off, I'd love for you to run your fingers through that so that we can really see
Yes.
how seamless it is, because the beach wave and the curls, we love them. But eventually there will be a new technique that will come in, or people will be favoring more straight hair. And how sad that the client can't wear her hair straight because it only looks any good with the curl. Rosemary, what are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I couldn't agree more. I think it's nice to see something fresh and new and give the options of enjoying it just as much as straight as curly, because I feel like a lot of times curls you can't necessarily always enjoy all of the dimension and all the the real in-depth work that all colorists create.
Yeah,
Well, and
absolutely.
this is how you prevent that. What I'm doing right now is how you prevent it. It takes a little time. It takes a little time, and this is the movement. Gerard, my friend, Gerard Scarpese, he and I were talking one time about, I love talking to hair cutters, because what we do, if you notice, I'm pulling this back. If you were to cut this, to pull it back, I hardly place color horizontally, because then you'll get a heavy line. Think about hair cutting. You know, if you hold the foil down and do this when you're doing highlights, you're going to get a heavy line. So I'll pull it up at a 90, because that's where we start releasing weight. So when it drops, you have a shattered line at the root. Like, I think about how the cutters talk, and it just blows me away. So I'm pulling this back at a 45. That's one of the reasons why I won't get a line in the hair. The second is this movement. If you notice how much product I'm putting on a lot of product. I'm putting on tons of product. So I want to make sure that this hair is completely saturated, and it's this movement, team, right here, right what I'm doing, rolling it back and forth to make sure that you have that beautiful seam. The first thing that I do is comb. That helps blend out what has already been processing, so that it will take that line out as well, because that's been sitting there for a little bit. I comb it through and then I blend. I will not have a line.
So let me ask you this. Sometimes they've seen colorists put the product on the foil, so it's on the back side of the hair when they lay the hair over it, then they coat on the top. Do you feel that that is an additional effective way, or it's not as effective as this?
It is. It is an effective way of doing it, because that way you can get that backside covered at the same time.
Now, why are you wrapping in foil versus just using saran wrap?
I like control of isolating with foil. If you ever got in a fight with saran wrap, I lose every single time.
Yeah.
Can't.
I can't wrap baked goods with saran wrap without getting in a mess. Good point. I love that. Very, very good point.
Every time it's like I end up, I even had a client hold on one part of it. I was like, no, this is not a really great service for them if I have to get them involved in the holding of the foil. All right, so now that's our back. We did 3 diagonal slices coming this way. Our first one was high, so that we could have contrast of light when it falls over that dark back. The second one was medium, and the third one was completely covered. So now we're gonna go through the top. Now I'm gonna start incorporating the third color. So you'll see 3 colors on one strand. Now I do wanna, while I'm doing this, I'm using the same technique. I would love to go back to this pre-done mannequin and talk to you about how fast this application can be. So here's our first one. I'm going to comb through, make sure there's no knots. Team, this is very important, because if you go to comb this root formula through the ends and it stops you, you're gonna have a line. You will have a line, and you don't wanna have a line, or else this one I'll have to be all the way through and just say I meant to do that. Okay, so drop your comb in at a 45, pull it all the way through, and you can see how it starts to blend that out. I could just completely leave it like that and then use this blue to tone the ends. That's what I did with this mannequin that's pre-done for you. So what we have is a root formula, and I combed through, but I didn't do anything to the ends. So when I shampooed her, I did what we call old school soap cap, and it sat on for about 10 minutes, and then I shampooed it out. So what I used at her root, I glossed her ends because her ends were this color. Remember, it was this color. That mannequin started off just like this. So I used what was on her root to gloss her hair. That's how fast that technique can be in the salon. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of this root formula and pull it out.
So Lupe, could you actually do this entire process and it be effective just playing within the blonde family?
Yep. Yes. I would do a level 9 at the root, comb through, let the ends stay, shampoo it out, and then put a 5-minute gloss on her mids and ends. It's such a fun technique to do. Okay, so now we're going to grab our next formula. This is the medium, right up to it. Now remember, I'm going to stop where I want a 1-inch blend area that can happen. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to keep the tips really light because I want it to lay over that really dark back. Okay, here. So Vivian, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How often do you practice on mannequins?
Practice on mannequins. I don't think there's a week that goes by that I do not practice on them in some shape or form. It's just part of my protocol of trying to, when I see something new, or if I'm working towards something new, sometimes I just like to put myself in a stressful situation because stress creates a little bit of adrenaline, and sometimes the lack of practice can be quite fascinating. That means taking a risk, but there could be genius. But most of the time, I believe it's important to have a plan and work a plan. I wouldn't take that risk approach working on a human being, but on a mannequin head, some of my greatest inventions have come from the States. So I think that's an important part of that, don't you think?
I do. I practice. I have mannequins. It looks like a morgue down here in my back room. I have mannequin heads everywhere. I think my husband's trying to get me to get rid of them. I do. I practice these techniques. And, you know, this is a craft. What we do is a craft. This is something that is, we have to practice what it is that we do. If you want to get better, then we have to practice.
Yes, which brings me to a question I'd like to ask you. First of all, before I dive into this question, I want to give people a little bit of a background because during COVID, you went through many, many challenges, as we all did around the world, but you made a very big, brave decision. You've been in the business 38 years. You've had your salon for 33 years. Tell everybody what you did.
Oh, a very, very big decision. It was an emotional decision. I decided after 33 years that we would shut the salon down and I would focus on education only. And it was a really hard thing to do. I love my team. I miss them so much. And, you know, I believe that it was a really good decision at the moment. At first, I was really afraid of what, you know, you get used to doing something. You know, you get up, you go to work, you have a good time, you come home. You know, I miss them every day. But I know that at a point, you know, COVID has been so scary, and this whole time of change, and it really gave me an insight to, here I am, you know, January, I think I was home for 4 days, and I had no idea of how much I was gone until I was home. And then after that, I feel like it's the right thing to do. And then writing curriculum and getting, we were doing, on my Instagram, my Hair Color Magic team did free education for all the network. You know, they're amazing, and working with them, I feel that this is my next step in my life. And as much as I know COVID has been a really hardship for people, it's been hard for me. I think some really great decisions have come out from this.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. There are many salon owners that are here right now, and we have some questions that are coming through, which we'll address in a moment. But for salon owners, very often you're here, well, I offer my stylist education, and they are reluctant to invest in themselves, or they won't show up, or they only do things for free, and they won't actually make that commitment to a deeper dive into their learning. What would you say to them in terms of coaching? Because obviously you and I believe never stop learning, and everyone who's shown up today would agree with that. But there are many people who are resistors. So talk to me about the resistors.
I found in my experience that has come from being comfortable. I do think being comfortable of where you're at the moment. And I experienced that in my salon as well. You know, we had big names come to the salon to do amazing haircut classes, hair color classes, and to get them, you know, to commit to 2 days. You know, they would commit, oh, I can come Sunday, but I can't come Monday. You know, that type of answer would be, you know, you're investing a lot of money in their education, and you would think that they would have the passion that you do, and that's the key word. It's like we've got to keep speaking to their passion. And I think if you had an open discussion, and shame on me because I realized it, you know, a little too late. But what I did realize is having those open discussions with them. You know, tell me why this, you know, you don't ask why. You know, sit down during the reviews. You know, are you having reviews with them? You know, that was something I was so busy, and I kind of would do it when I could. You know, have your management team sit down with them. What inspires them? How do we keep them inspired and keep the passion going in their heart? And it has to do with passion. You know, like, where is their passion? Because at one point they feel that they don't need it anymore. So that means that they've reached their goal. Yes. You know, how did they reach their goal?
Yeah. And Karen is asking a question here. Would this be a good technique to use on someone who would like to go into a balayage look from a full head of highlights?
Yes. Bingo. Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
So you would paint the root. And see how big this section is? I'm taking this whole thing. So I have to make sure that I'm applying enough product. It's how thick these sections are. If you feel more comfortable taking fine slices, just do the same technique on that slice. You want it to be, the word chunky, I mean, I don't know if that's a good word, but you want these subsections to be chunky, okay? I can't do that comb through without doing that whole, I look like I'm dramatic, I know.
That's good. Well, that's true, because so many times you'll hear people say, take a section small enough so that you could read newspaper print through that. So, but what is also interesting about what you're doing is this fascinating rolling method, which I don't think I've seen somebody do that before.
Rolling back and forth?
Yeah, rolling backwards and forwards. I've seen more the up and down, and the whole philosophy thin enough so that you can see the newspaper print through. So I think this is really fascinating. But I wanted to go back to these important questions about an attitude to learning. You know, we spoke about getting too comfortable versus growing in the uncomfortable place. Often that sort of stems from a lack of confidence. And often when we're learning something new, the signals that our body gives us are like, oh my gosh, what if this doesn't work? We get scared. And I always say to people, behind your fear is your courage. And if you are super comfortable all the time, then you are just repeating your past. But you have to get to that place of trying something new, which will be uncomfortable because it's new, it's unfamiliar with no guarantee. So I think the big conversation that we're having here as well is, are you happy with your past hair work, business, creativity, and techniques? If you're happy with them and you feel you've got another 5 years to just repeat your past will be your today and your future. But if you look at your past and you say, I'm getting a bit bored with that, the sparkle's gone. Or if you're saying, well, I'm losing a few clients because I'm not doing anything new. Whatever the question is that comes up in our honest, quiet moments, if you feel there's a space for something new, That means you can't repeat your past because your past will be your future. But what you can do is say, these I'm taking forward with me, they work, they're solid, and so on. But I'm going to add to my repertoire. I'm going to take that time and have my mannequin head and work on techniques and just experiment and play. I am going to get uncomfortable. I am going to get a little bit fearful, but behind my fear is my courage. And I think that that's really, really an important part, because we all want to be, I mean, thinking about this for a moment, if you were going to go to a dermatologist, and your dermatologist hadn't done any further education since she had been to university and got her doctorate, or she every now and then takes a class, but she's not current and relevant to today's technology and skincare. I wonder, number one, how much she would charge. I wonder how fascinating and engaging she would be. And I wonder if you would get the best of the best. It's a good question to ask, isn't it? So if you take that approach to ourselves, anytime you do a course, put your diplomas or on the wall and make sure that people are recognizing that you are out there. You must promote when you are online learning. And many of you know, we've got many people here from Hair Designer TV joining us today. Many of you know that we have certified courses. So you can print out those diplomas, and they should be on your social. They should be on your website, and they should be somewhere in the salon. There's a little tiny space somewhere where you can show your clients that you truly are invested in education. And Lupe, I think it's just wonderful that you're embracing education. I'm super excited about what you're going to be doing with all the great things that you're doing with color magic education. And clearly you have a great passion for what you're doing, which is marvelous. Tell me about format training, how that helped you as a salon owner and how that's helped you as a colorist today.
Yeah, format training. Janine O'Neill Blackwell. I'm some of you from the Aveda world may know her name, and Bernice McCarthy. So it's a scientific approach to teaching. And what is really interesting about it is it talks about the different learner types. And I was blessed. When I say blessed, I mean really, really blessed to have had time with Janine. And I worked at the Aveda Academy in New York for 10 years. And we would create our curriculum. I want to make sure I get this good. Okay. We would create our curriculum, and what we needed to do was make sure that our curriculum was, people were able to understand what it is that we were doing, teaching, and if we're on the right path of delivering information. It is fascinating. It's INU Training is the website, and I learned how to format classes. So all of our classes are formatted in this particular way. So it is a way of delivery of information. And I used it for our salon, like how I would teach, how I would conduct meetings, how I would, if I had to deliver any information that was to be done in a certain way, that is the technique that I used. And Hair Color Magic, all of the classes are founded off of that. So it is a fascinating way of teaching and delivering, and it is so much fun to create curriculum using this information.
So give us an example in the salon, how you would use format training, because this will be very helpful for our friends.
Okay, so when we would have a meeting with our team, we would, I understood that they had to know why I was telling them the information, then what the information was, then they needed to know how that information, how they were going to do it or how it was going to work. And then we would talk about it, and then let them, and the last part would be what if. So what if we do this? What if this happens? What can we do? What and then let them be involved in the decision making. Any decisions in the salon that happens, it has to be good for the stylist, it has to be good for the salon owner, it has to be good for the guest. So these three things.
I could see how you could use that in a consultation so easily, that what we're going to do
consultation
today,
as well.
how we're going to do
as
it,
well.
why we're going to
this
do
is
it.
why. This is why. This is what we'll do. This is how we'll do it. And then home care, it's done, or how would you like to change it? And then giving them their home care, giving them their maintenance schedule. That's so important. That
So
really
guys,
is
that's a
important.
really great tip that Lupe is giving us today. Think about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, why you're going to do it, and what if you do it, and what if you don't do it. Those are really good guidelines, which I think are fantastic. I want to give a big shout out to Kerry, who is with us today from good old California, sending you lots of love. And Tess is here today, sending you love. There's so many wonderful people here that we have that are amazing. You're getting lots and lots of love from our friends out there. So thank you so much. So let me ask you a couple more questions, because I think, I always say, every salon has a chair, has lighting, mirrors, backwash, etc., etc. We all have the same equipment, but how we use equipment and how we choose to navigate through our space is how we think that separates us. And I always think that, yes, a great colorist is someone who has incredible technical knowledge, but they also have a great sense of style. They know when it's right and they know when it's wrong. Talk to me about that sense of knowing and how you communicate that through to your client. When your client comes in with an image which may have been wonderful 10 years ago, but now we're at that sweet place where maybe it's inappropriate. It's that sense of style. Or someone says, I've always wanted to be a platinum blonde. And then you go, oh, dear, with that olive complexion. Why would we do that? A Nordic blonde can look so sensational on that cool skin tone and a certain age, and it can look so fresh and so gorgeous, or it can look really cheap, can't it? A blonde can go from expensive to cheap. Talk to me about how you have developed your sense of style, because that applies to the furniture. It applies to how you communicate with your staff, a sense of style, a sense of harmony. Talk to me about that.
Even I think it carries on into our work as well. Don't you think what our aesthetic is for what we think is pretty? I think my sense of style, my eye, was developed by, and I will have to give a lot of credit to my husband, Manuel. He is an artist. He does photography. He's really interested in modern art. He's, our house is like a little museum. Well, it's just, he's got such a great eye. And what I found was he had me, and this connects even to our question before of getting our stylists motivated and passionate about what it is that we do, to go out for a walk. I would, he taught me to look at things for what they are, and the biggest thing that I have to say that I learned, he may not have said it, but I learned from him is look at what you don't like and figure out why, because that tells you more about your aesthetic than what you do like. And I think that has helped me. I do think, and it goes even further back to the beginning of our conversation, if it feels right and it's part of you, when I met Aveda, that it was that one thing that connected with me, and it was that feeling that, yeah, this is good. This is what I want. This is who I want to belong to. And it's the same. It's really kind of the same. I like this style, what about this style do you like? And telling our client, this is not, and I would even use words that would be like, this really isn't you. This is something that, it's it could be a price thing. It could be, you can't pull this off. I mean, sometimes that blunt, you really can't pull that off.
So you want to hear something funny? I saw this gorgeous dress online, and it was a black dress, and it had a little bit of lace. And it was on this gorgeous, slim girl, 19 years old. So I buy the dress because it looks amazing on her. I get the dress home, I put it on, and I feel really like, oh, this is so fabulous, right? And I walked into the room, and my husband is there, and I said, what do you think? And he's silent. Now, that when your husband goes silent like that, it's not a good thing, right? You know that, yeah? So he said, darling, what are you thinking? I went, well, I think this is really pretty, no? He said, you look like an old Spanish woman going to a funeral. So the question is, could I take 19 cool trendy and turn it into lovely Spanish lady who's going to a funeral, right? So it's the interpretation. So to your point about how do you teach style and how do you elegantly say, I think that's a really fabulous look, but I think there's something better that's for you. And while you may have that fantasy, it's called a wig. And I think blondes are the place that we go the most, where we go crazy, right? And Christina is saying, that's me. I can't pull off a blonde. Neither can I. I look like I've been dead for 10 years if I go blonde. And, hi to Tiffany. She's enjoying today. And thank you for being with us. So, yes, one of my things I speak about is great style completes. It doesn't compete.
Yes.
So think about that. What would you put with French fries? How would you accompany a French fry? What would you add to that to complete it?
Mustard and ketchup.
Okay, mustard and ketchup, right. What would
cheese.
And cheese. Oh, okay, you're going for it. I'm hungry. So what would you accompany strawberries with?
Champagne, darling.
Champagne, right. So we are agreeing. Do we agree with that, guys? That champagne and strawberries is a really good idea right now. And extremely naughty, some French fries with some mustard and some ketchup would be also pretty cute, right? Now, the thing about that is that each of those products complement each other. They bring out the flavor in each other, which is like a great chef. But what if I said, well, okay, so let's put champagne on the French fries. And then how about if
I'll
we
try
put
anything once.
How about if we put ketchup on the potatoes? With the champagne. I'm mixing it up.
On the champagne.
Or on the strawberry. So we've taken items that in and of themselves, when they're put together, bring out the greatness. They bring out the flavor. They complement. But when we put the wrong thing together, there's a clash. Now, in fashion, sometimes a cool, edgy model can make something that so does not work, an evening gown with Wellington boots, shot in the desert. They all clash, but somehow they work. But for most of us that live in normal land, we need to enhance who we are with something that's complementary, obviously, to eye color, to skin tone, to lifestyle, to age, to how feminine we want. And I think something that colorists don't speak enough about, if I may say, as a baby colorist, is, will this color make you look sexy? Will this color make you look boyish? Will this color be glamorous? Because there is the sensuality of the woman and how color can harden or soften, whisper, scream, or shout. And I think these are all part of our narrative that is really important. And for my friends watching, if you haven't been onto Hair Designer TV, we have a course called Who is Sitting in Your Chair? And it's a dive into face shape. It's a dive in how to color to face shape. It's a dive into the 3 wheels of fashion. It's a dive into how to do something that has the femininity or the strength. And I promise you that whole training of your eye and how to communicate it through consultation is probably one of our most successful, game-changing courses, because it shows you how to see. And Lupe, I think you will agree with this. How we feel affects how we think. And how we think is going to affect the action that takes place. So hairdressers are feely people, aren't they? We feel things and we respond to how we feel. And sometimes those feelings can be amazing. And other times it's like, that was a really wrong thing to feel. So how do you as an artist balance the creative with the technical to make you the wonderful colorist you are today?
I find, I want to add on a little bit to that. Everyone says I'm a horrible blonde or I don't look good with red. I want to challenge that. I do want to challenge that, and I'll tell you why. There is a level of blonde. There is a tone of red, whether it's whisper, talk, or scream. There is a shade of red, whether it's violet red, red violet, red, red orange, orange red, that we all can use. You have to know you have to really understand the skin tone and what complements it.
Yeah.
And then you can find out, because you may not be a level 10 blonde, but you could be a level 7 blonde or level 6 blonde. Like me, I could not go any further than a 6.
Is that your natural color?
Yeah.
Yeah. You look at, no, you're not.
No.
Is that why you look so young? I love your pixie haircut, by the way. You look so cute.
I can't. This is long. If I could have it, I would shave it. I would totally shave my head.
Really?
Thank you. Oh yeah, I love short hair. I don't look great with long hair.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I think we've gone through such a wonderful time in our business with long hair, which I love, of course, and all the amazing painting that's been taking place and so on and so forth. But I'm hearing more and more and more today about young hairdressers coming into our business that are actually frightened to cut hair short. And I do feel we're returning to short hair. I cut my hair off.
so.
I feel so liberated with my short hair. I mean, it's
I
just
love your hair.
I
It
know
looks
it's
so
much fun,
good.
isn't it? And I had it down
beautiful.
here for ages. So, you know, my biggest concern though, Lupe, was about it. If I had my hair cut short, that I wouldn't feel feminine anymore. And I think that's like, I can't believe I'm thinking like the consumer, like, oh no, short hair is not feminine. And I actually feel more feminine with my hair this length than before. So I got caught in that trap as well. So I think knowing that short haircuts will be coming back, and I'm really encouraging anyone who is listening to us today to start really embracing getting into some really fun haircuts from a color point of view. It is so exciting because you can do quick techniques and charge quite a lot for a quick technique. I actually think you can make more money on short hair coloring than the long because of how time consuming this is. So talk to me about that, your thoughts.
So I agree. I do think that it does take a lot longer to do long hair. Short hair, it's more about the technique and about the final result. So there are special techniques that you would use on short hair. And it doesn't take as long, and you could charge just as much. But this is, you know, I find I'll listen to people who are doing these long hair techniques and they're spending so much time on them. And it is really about time. Our services are about time. So I love short hair. When I'll scroll through Instagram, and I love giving techniques for long hair. I do. I love giving techniques for long hair. But I stop and I look at short hair. I stop and look at short hair because I think it is beautiful, for one, and it's a technique that is really going away, that we really need to be solid on it. We have to be well-rounded. I found a lot of people who don't like to use foils, they just want to hair paint. And I think you should be, if you're going to do it, you have to be well-rounded in all. You can still specialize. I'm fine with the specializing, but I do believe that I have a really strong opinion about that.
So let's see your lovely little girl so we can see the blend because it's so beautiful.
Hang on, my hands are from those gloves. Hang on, they're sticky. Let me see if
I
can
wanted
do this.
to say a big shout out to Bart, who is here from the Netherlands, and we've got
hi Bart.
Yeah, and we've got people here from Vancouver Island, which we love.
Hello, everyone.
Where you're calling in from, it would be lovely. And that is gorgeous. So brush that through really slowly so we can see how that is so gorgeous.
So you could see how what I did is I painted the root, combed it through in different variances, and then I left the ends out. You can see this one was high. And when I shampooed it, I just let the product lay on the mids and ends. You can see how. And it's just rolling back and forth, team. You can see how it's high and low. It looks like I went through with highlights. And it's working in big, chunky, bold sections. Your technique has to be a lot of pressure, and put your brush vertically and roll it back and forth, and you'll be fine. You won't have any. Look at how pretty that is. And I really am meticulous about getting lines. You can see I love doing blondes.
That is amazing right there. Could you just brush that one more time over to the side and just hold it for a second? Because this is what I like about this. There's no cheat here. It's not hidden in a curl. It is the real deal of that wonderful fusion. So I think you have done a genius application. There are no ugly lines, bands. It's expensive. It is not looking like a color disaster in any shape or form. And we do see that out there, which then end up being curled. So that is absolutely sensational. So please, just before we finish our session today, let's do a nice little recap of what you actually did. I'm going to just bring back that slide again.
See, the side goes from the recession all the way back to the crown. So it's like a sharp triangle. In the back, completely from root to end on the mannequin that I demonstrated today, I did root to end with blue, the darkest saturation. And then on the sides, taking diagonal partings, using the variants of those 3 foils. And the first one I wanted to do a dark face frame, go against what's trend, because sometimes I do that, is the one that's from root to end, and we varied them using the technique. The first comb combs through the hair to make sure there are no knots. The second one combs all the way, you grab the color, take your comb out of 45, which is very important, and pull it straight back all the way through. And I will tell you real quick, the comb that you use, this one I got from Hairbrain Pro. If you look really tight, and I don't know, it's a YS Park, I'm not sure what the number is, maybe you do, Vivian, but if you look really close, the spine goes like this, it's in a V. So when you have a comb that's in a V, it'll take and scrape color off. That's why you're at a 45, because it's scraping the color off.
Yes.
So that's anything that has a round teeth at the spine helps pull color through. So anything at a V will help scrape it off. So again, comb through your second comb, grab some of your color, take it out of 45 and shatter that out. And what we're doing every foil is either one's going to be low, one's going to be high. And I recommend if you want something that has this type of an effect, you can see how it's a bold piece. This one is high, the next one is super low, and the next one is high. And you can see how where I wanted a lot of shadow, I put it really low. So along through the sides, you want to have it maybe low so your highlights, when they fall on, look like highlights.
And Karen was asking, please, if you could repeat the formulation.
Okay, so on this mannequin or our fashion formula? The fashion formula?
Fashion formula.
Okay, so our first fashion formula is blue mixed equal parts, which is our darkest saturation. Our second formula is 40 grams of clear, 15 grams of blue. And then our last is 40 grams of clear to 5 grams of blue. And then we mix developer for all grams of color. And then alternating those, darkest at the root, we have our medium saturation, and then our lightest saturation at the tips. That's what I did at this top section here. And that way it would give it more, when it gets cut, there'll be more funness to work with. And then just rolling back and forth. The movement is apply the color with your brush horizontally, take it vertically and roll it back and forth. Get in there, make sure you massage that color inside so that you don't have any spots in your hair. And that will help with your smooth blend. Apply your color, leave a 1-inch gap, apply your color, and then that's where you blend your 2 colors together. Blending, you'll pick up your lighter color to blend into your darker color, and that will make a medium color. If you blend with your darker color, you will create a line. So always blend with your lighter color.
Excellent. And some advice I would just like to sort of finish off with. What would you say would be your biggest message of advice, hope and encouragement to young cosmetology students first? They're coming into this business at a time where they're being challenged on all fronts. What is your advice to young cosmetology students or kids who are just starting their apprenticeship program in the salon?
Take as much information that you possibly can. Always ask why. Never stop learning. If you have time enough to lean, you have time enough to clean. And instead of cleaning, pull out a mannequin. Start practicing your craft. It is a craft. It is something that we have to practice all the time. Don't expect it to be 100% all the time. And if something doesn't come out as well as you want it to, it's not a bad thing. Just understand why and then learn how to do it. Just keep learning. I think back of when I was in cosmetology school, and I just wanted to know everything right away. I wanted to be so good right away, and then I had to understand, I had to learn everything. So just be open, ask questions, always ask why.
Okay. And what would you say to our experienced stylists who have been so gracious to give us their hour today? What would you say to encourage them and give them advice?
Thank you for your time, first of all, and you have the passion. That's why you're here. I would say similar, practice your craft. This is something that is, it's so exciting what we get to do. We change people's lives every day. And if that one guest, you look at your schedule and you think, oh, she's coming in today, we change people's lives every day. And always give back to yourself, because what we do, we give so much emotion, passion. It's exhausting. So you've got to do something for yourself, whether it's take walks, go to nature, yoga, whatever it is. Go with your kids, go with your dogs. Give something back to yourself. Be good to yourself, because what we do is a lot.
Yes,
a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am super excited about what you shared with us today. I've learned a lot as a baby colorist, so I know our friends have. So thank you. You make it look super easy, of course. We will post the final look so everyone can see what they are. And I just say congratulations to you for all you've done in your career. And it's super exciting to see what you're going to be doing next, especially with Hair Color Magic. We're super excited to see what extraordinary things you're going to do with your team. And thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. You are one of my idols. So this has been an honor. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, bless you. Thank you. Well, guys, have fun. We are going to archive this on Hair Designer TV. And please share this with all of your friends, because this is what it's about, sharing and inspiring. And it's always good to do that. So take care and bye for now.